G'day folks, how you going? Welcome back to my channel. This is your first time here, special good day to you. I have just recently done a road trip to South Australia. We spent 7 weeks going around the whole regions and checking out and seeing what they all had to offer. It was an amazing trip and I was really sad to see the end of it. Now, I documented that road trip, the highlights of it here on YouTube. If you haven't seen that series yet, then I'll put a link up here, and also at the end of this video I'll put a link to the playlist for that whole load of videos. Now in this next lot of videos I'm going to go back and revisit some of the places that we went to, and but just do it in a lot more detail. So grab a drink, sit down, and we'll get into it. But first up, I want to explain to you how this all went. Well, when it comes to planning, well, quite simply, I didn't have a plan, and that's unusual for me. I usually like to plan out where we are, what we're going to do, and what's going to happen. But South Australia was a place I've never really been to. I've driven through it a few times, mostly in the middle of the night, but never stopped. So it was hard to plan anything because I didn't know where I was going to be or what I was going to be doing. What we did do is we planned on stopping in a caravan park somewhere and using that as a base, and then travelling out from there to look at various things in the area. And the only place we did do some planning was for Adelaide itself, because I found out that when we're there, school holidays are going to be on. So things like caravan parks and that would be all booked out. So we planned ahead for that part of it. If we were driving along between places, we would free camp along the way, and I'd use wiki camps to work out where a good camp was, and then stop in there for the night. Our plan was to drive straight across the nullabour to Ceduna, and we planned on doing that in 3 days. This way we would get maximum time to tour South Australia. We left Perth just before lunchtime using a road we discovered while shooting our last series, the Wheatbelt Way. Taking the road out through 2J to Goomalling, Dowran, Muckenbudden to Bullfinch and into the back of Southern Cross meant we would have very little traffic on the road with us. It also meant no trucks till we got to Southern Cross. This is way better than dealing with all the traffic on the Great Eastern Highway, and is only about an extra 50 kilometres longer. Our first camp was on the side of the road about 20 kilometres south of Coolgardie, and it was dark when we got in there. As I said, we used wiki camps to find our camps, and this one was in a pretty good place, and we had it all to ourselves. This one is listed under Londonderry. It was a pretty early start the next morning. Early starts is something that didn't last long on this trip, but it gave us a chance to have a good look around where we stopped. There is plenty of room in here and plenty of places to hide from the traffic. The next day the weather wasn't great, so we just drove all day and didn't really film anything. Our next camp was just over the border in South Australia. On the third day, our luck was changing with the weather gods. Things were looking better. When you're planning on crossing the country on the Eyre Highway, it pays to be a little prepared. You don't have to be a genius to work out that fuel is going to be a major hit to your pocket. Usually I would use an app on my phone to get an idea of the fuel prices, but this time I was lucky to have a friend that drove across the nullabour a few weeks before me, and he made a note of all the fuel prices for me. Now my car has a long range tank, plus I had 2 jerry cans of fuel. I worked out where the highest prices were and used the 2 cans in the right place so I could drive past the most expensive sites and save a few dollars for something else. You see a lot on Facebook about people asking them about the merits of whether to book ahead for a caravan park or not. Now, personally, if I know where I'm going to be and when I'm going to be there, then why not? Now, I didn't put Ceduna. I mean, it's Ceduna, how busy can it be? Well, busy enough that there wasn't any caravan sites left. Apparently, it was just one of those weeks. We went to the Ceduna Tourist Centre, like we're doing all the way around, to get the local goss on the area. But unless you're into things like fishing and oysters and anything water-based, there isn't that much to do, particularly for us. There are some drives heading down towards Port Lincoln that go off from the main road, but they're dirt roads, and as I've said before, my van is an on-road van, so dust into the van is always going to be a possibility. Although we did make a few stops, and our first one was the little town of Streaky Bay. Streaky Bay, a picturesque town on the Eyre Peninsula of South Australia. Located 727 kilometres by road from Adelaide, this charming coastal town is home to around 2,200 people. We arrived just in time for lunch, but being a Sunday, there wasn't very many things open. The local pub was an option, offering a traditional Aussie pub lunch. There was also a cosy cafe for those who preferred a lighter meal or a coffee. For a quick and convenient option, both Foodlands and the IGA were open. Yes folks, in WA, they still have Foodlands here in South Australia. It was a shame to see that the bakery wasn't open. We've heard great things about their pastries and breads and donuts. But we found something in the IGA that would do just fine. We weren't looking for a big lunch, just something simple to tide us over. It was pretty cold outside, so with the van overlooking the jetty, we sat in the van and watched the ocean go by while having lunch. Streaky Bay offers great scenery and some great coastal scenic drives and relaxed atmosphere, making it the perfect place to unwind. I think Streaky Bay might be an excellent place to live for a while with its laid-back atmosphere, and it's well worth stopping in for a while if you're in the area. Thanks for joining us on our little adventure in Streaky Bay. Even on a quiet Sunday, this town still gets a solid 5 out of 5 for me. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more of our travels around South Australia. Usually you just drive from point A to point B and not really pay much attention to anything in between. The problem with that is that you might miss something, well, unusual. Using Wiki Camps, you can check out the points of interest along the road that you're travelling on, and that's how we found our next stop. Murphy's Haystacks are located approximately 41 kilometres southeast of Streaky Bay, South Australia. They're a fascinating natural attraction, well worth a visit. These impressive rock formations are located on private property, but are accessible to the public. So we've made a little stop at what's called Murphy's Haystack. I was just reading the sign about how it got its name. Apparently at some point some Scottish agricultural person was I guess doing a tour around the area, and he was discussing with people about how hay farmers can improve their hay output. And they were driving down the road there and he saw these rocks in the distance, and he made a joke about the farmers' haystacks, and that joke kind of stuck. Now the property belonged to Murphy, so that's how it got its name, Murphy's Haystack. That's different. The formations are actually inselbergs, which are isolated rock hills or knobs that rise abruptly from a gently sloping or virtually level surrounding plain. So the way that they think these have been formed, if I read and understand that sign correctly, is very much the same way as how Wave Rock was formed. All this here was all under land, and with moisture seeping down as it rains, down lower in the sand, the moisture stays there longer, and it starts eating into the rocks at the bottom round through here. And then as the sand gets blown away, the rocks are exposed, and that's why they're a lot rounder at the top than what they are at the bottom. And when you look around through here and see how tall these rocks are, this land was very high. Today Murphy's Haystacks are accessible to the public thanks to the property owners who maintain the area. Visitors can enjoy the walking trails that weave around and through the rock formations, with informational signs providing insight into their geological history and cultural significance. If you want to see them at their best, then consider using the camping area here and see the formations at first light or at sunset, when the pink granite takes on a stunning reddish glow, making it a favourite spot for photographers and nature enthusiasts. The area is easily accessible by anything from a bike to a motorhome. While it costs a few dollars to get in here, you can see that the money goes towards providing facilities for the visitor, like toilets and sheltered picnic tables. This is a stop that's worth getting out of the car for, even if it's just to stretch the legs for a little. Our next stop is going to be Port Lincoln. We're going to stop there in the caravan park for the night because as we were driving down the road checking out possible campsites, there were either no room for us or the access wasn't very good. So instead of wasting time looking around, we just went straight for the caravan park. One thing I do have to say about the Eyre Peninsula, we passed through a number of little towns along the way to Port Lincoln that looked like great little places to live. I don't know what it was about them, it was just something that looked comfortable. Unfortunately, I seem to have lost a lot of the videos and photos to these places. Now, I've also seemed to have lost some of the stuff from Port Lincoln, but here is what I was able to get to piece together.
morning folks. Spent last night here at the Port Lincoln Caravan Park, which is actually about 11 kilometres out of Port Lincoln. But not a bad view to wake up to, is it? We actually went into Port Lincoln last night. Went in to get some dinner, so took a bit of a quick drive around there, put some pictures up now. We're going to go back in again now and have a look at a couple of other things, just check out the town generally itself, and then we're going to continue north out of here, and got a camp tonight on the other side of Whyalla. I want to go to the Whyalla Museum. They've got an old Navy ship in dry dock there you can go in and have a look at, so I want to go and do that. So and we'll check out a couple of little towns along the way. That's pretty much our plan for today. I do have to say though, the Eyre Peninsula, a little bit underwhelming. I sort of thought there'd be a bit more to have a look at, but the woman in the tourist bureau in Ceduna, she was told us all about it. I mean, she didn't really tell us anything spectacular to go and look at, but there's a lot of coastal things, coastal beaches and things like that to look at, but it's you got to go down limestone roads, and my van's not that you need a four-wheel drive, but it's a road van, so I wasn't really keen in going down and checking them out. If you're into fishing and surfing and things like that, that's probably all pretty spectacular, but yeah, I'm not into that, so we skipped a lot of that. And so yeah, we'll travel up the north here, this part of the peninsula, and we'll see what they've got to offer up that way.
Port Lincoln is on the southwestern side of the Eyre Peninsula. It was founded in 1802 and almost became the capital city of South Australia, but eventually lost out to Adelaide. It's a pretty decent sized town with just over 15,000 people living here. That explains why the Americans have 3 embassies in town. You know, KFC, McDonald's and HJ's. Which is lucky for us, because guess what we're having for tea tonight? You know you made it when they show up. One of the highlights of Port Lincoln is the foreshore area. It's a popular spot for both locals and visitors to relax and enjoy the scenic views of the ocean. The foreshore provides a tranquil setting for watching the waves and taking in the natural beauty of the coastline, making it a perfect place to spend some leisurely time. Port Lincoln is a natural deep water harbour, which makes the port attractive to large bulk grain carriers for topping up loads from other ports in South Australia and Victoria. Grains and seeds are the principal exports. Major imports are petroleum products and fertiliser.
So we've gone for a bit of a walk around Port Lincoln, had a bit of a look around. It's a little bit different to what we have in WA. The shops here, they're not really one shopping area. It's sort of like just spread out between a lot of different streets. You've got to walk from one street to another to find various different shops. Like in Perth, it's you know, like you go to that area and that's where all the shops are, sort of thing. You know, the towns are the same. You know, shops are in that area, but here it's sort of spread around the place. But I do like this foreshore down here. Really nice looking. They've done a good job down here. Nice green grass, and it's fairly shallow out there to start with. You want to go for a bit of a swim, but over there where the jetty is, it looks like they've got a little roped off area, not roped off, little fenced off area to make it safe swimming, because you do get white pointers down this way. And I did notice that at Streaky Bay too, they had the same thing. They had a fenced off area, so you can go swimming through that area. So yeah, it's not really that much in the tourist way to look at around down here that I could see, so we're going to leave Port Lincoln, and we're going to continue north towards Whyalla. That's our plan. Not sure where we're going to stop next.
So that's where we're going to leave it for this week in this video. Join us next week when we finally get to Whyalla and do the HMS Whyalla boat tour. That'll make more sense to you next week. So don't forget, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit the thumbs up as well, because that really helps the channel out while making YouTube show my videos to other viewers. And we'll see you next week. Happy travels.